Hello to my next session. Do you feel good is never good enough? And although you know you're good at what you're doing, there is always that little voice in your head telling you you could do better. Are you exhausted from trying to be the very best you can be? And do you sometimes feel disappointed that nobody seems to be appreciating all of your efforts? Well, then this video might give you some ideas on what to change. First of all, let me ask you a question. What is perfect to you? Have you any idea on when to stop and when enough is enough? Some goals are of course measurable. E.g., if you are running and you measure the time it took, let's say to run 10 kilometers, you can run the same distance again and see if you're faster or not. But a lot of things are actually not measurable in private life, but also at work. Wanting to be better may therefore just be a feeling you can never achieve success in, because there is no real way to measure what better is exactly in this particular situation. While we are at work, let me introduce you to an economical interpretation of the Pareto principle. It tells us that if we want to achieve 100%, it takes about 20% of our effort to reach the first 80%, but actually 80% to reach the last 20%. So in the interest of your own well-being and health, it might be a good idea to ask yourself if you really need to achieve what you perceive to be 100%. I've seen salespeople giving clients way more than they were expecting. A lot of effort and energy wasted, in particular if the clients were not happy with the added outcome. And I've seen employees missing deadlines just because they were trying to give their boss the very best they could come up with. It wasn't always necessarily what the boss had actually asked for, however. And when they were told so, they were deeply disappointed because they did not feel that their work was being appreciated enough. So where do these ideas of perfectionism come from? As often, they tend to start very early on. We get brought up learning phrases like good, better, best, let us never rest, till our good is better and our better best. Often parents or teachers want us to grow into adults who are successful. Sometimes as children, the impression we therefore get is that the more we are geared towards success and performance, the more we can ensure our success in life. What makes a successful life, however, is not necessarily the amount of money we have on our bank account. Yes, of course, we should strive to have enough money to pay our bills, to pay our rent, to have enough food to eat. But being a lonely millionaire can make us feel a lot less successful. Nowadays, we're continuously surrounded by advertising, online and offline. Millions of products are wanting to be bought, and a lot of them are sold by offering us a more perfect life in a carefree, ideal world. The more we believe this, however, the more we lose ourselves in an endless chase of buying yet a bigger car, yet a bigger house, and trying possibly also to impress the people around us, believing that this makes us successful. Quite often, we get out of touch with who we really are, however, and what we actually need. We're brainwashed to believe that we need to stay youthful and fit, regardless of what our bodies tell us. If we have problems, no worries. The product we need is just a mouse click away. So let's take a look at music in this context. Did you know that supermarkets and other consumer temples actually spend a lot of time and money researching what kind of music makes us stay just a little longer so that we can buy just a little more? Is there such a thing as perfect music? Well, there is something called the perfect pitch, as some of you may know. It describes the rare ability of a person to identify or recreate a musical note without a reference tone. Of course, it is a great skill to have in a lot of musical situations, but there are actually also situations where a perfect pitch can make life more difficult. And certainly you do not need perfect pitch to become a successful musician. As a singer, I spend quite a bit of my time trying to improve intonation and rhythm. Both are measurable. The question, however, is how perfect do they have to be? With software like Autotune and Melodyne around, people have become more used to hearing perfect intonation. This has set up the bar very high, especially for artists singing live at concerts, which some of them actually don't. At the same time, a lot of listeners claim that everything they hear on the radio sounds more or less the same these days, and that authenticity is missing. A lot of songs have actually been streamlined to perfection by software. Here comes the good news, though. In several studies on how much imperfect intonation actually affects listeners, the result was that it affects a lot less than expected. 80% seems to do the job for most listeners, although professional musicians will have finer ears, of course, and cringe earlier on. This does lead to the question of who your audience actually is, and who will have a say on how good or how bad your performance is in the end. Why is this important? Well, again, because otherwise you might be spending tons of time on something nobody will even be able to appreciate. Today's song is called Perfect, and I've really enjoyed describing some of the traps people fall into if they're on the road to perfectionism. I hope you enjoy the song too. As usual, it's available on all of the big stores. I'm sure you also know of people who basically never get started, simply because they never actually feel good enough to get started. When I learned about psychology, the school I went to had a lot of students who never actually went on to apply what they had learned. A common excuse was, I still need to do this course, or I still need to do just this one little thing so that I will finally be professional enough to do it. Behind that was the fear of failure, which tends to pair up with the idea of having to be perfect. Your inner critic keeps on telling you, you won't make it. The pressure for all of us has increased due to the idea of having to continuously improve. And as a result, a lot of people are afraid of tests. Others are incapable of relaxing as they tense up to face the next challenge. So are we really that weak when we make mistakes? Or is it actually a sign of strength to be able to admit that we just made one? To me, a mistake is something we can learn from. For instance, young children learn how to walk by falling down again and again and yet again. Luckily, they are normally not discouraged and will just continue until they have mastered the skill, even if they're not perfect walkers right away. Later on, nobody will ask if it took them 3 months or 6 months to master it. So let me close by wishing you success in mastering whatever you want to achieve, but also the wisdom to set your goals and aims wisely. And if you do fall down once in a while, the strength to pick yourself up again. Bye for now.
Look, it's right there, and it's perfect. So close, so near. Just one more step, and I'll be there. I'll be there. I've got to get there, yeah. Up, 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 never ever ever stop, straight up to the top. I shouldn't be making those mistakes. I know it gives me so much pain, 'cause Daddy said you gotta do what it takes to get up to the top. Take the fast lane. He said, believe me, life's not fair, so don't expect mercy anywhere. Just be perfect. You better be perfect, and nothing less will do. So I'm not done yet. I'm not through. 'Cause good, better, best, I can't ever rest, and I'll never ever stop till I reach the top. My work's gotta be perfect, on spec, on time, on budget. So spotless, spotless. My body's gotta be perfect, gotta stay in shape, gotta stay so flawless. And Mr. Right's gonna be faultless. He's gotta make me look so perfect. Yes, I better be perfect, and nothing less will do. 'Cause I'm not done yet. No, I'm not through. 'Cause good, better, best, I can't ever rest, and I'll never ever stop till I reach the top. So how can I feel I'm getting nowhere? But at least I know I'm